One perk that people often don't talk about living in Japan is that it is just a brisk 8-hour plane ride to the beautiful island of Hawaii. So join me for a week on the big island of Hawaii as we hike volcanoes, swim with manta rays, check out the NASA telescopes, and of course, do the classic Hawaii things like snorkeling, beach going, and luauing. So after touching down at the airport, we of course go to pick up our rental car, which is a must-have, absolute essential to be able to drive on the big island for sure. And you can see here is perfectly clear, well, with some clouds when we landed, but very quickly as we were driving to our Airbnb, as the sun started to set, it started to get a little stormy, and I was like, is that a rainbow? And oh my gosh, not only was it a rainbow, it was a double rainbow, and it was a full 180. Have you guys ever seen a double full 180 rainbow before? I had certainly not. It was an insane way to be greeted by the island. And lucky for us, our Airbnb, just as we got there, was on the ocean front as well, and the sunset was absolutely gorgeous after the light bit of rain we had, and we were lucky enough to spend our first evening in Hawaii just relaxing at our Airbnb and watching the sun sink beneath the waves. Truly the most perfect aloha I could imagine. Okay, first full day in Hawaii, and we are starting off with a road trip. So today the plan is a day trip to Hilo. So some background information about the big island. There's two main parts of the island, two sides, and each side has like a city. We're staying on Kona, and that is kind of like the dry side of the island, which you can tell because this road trip here, it is kind of barren. This is not what I expected Hawaii to look like at all. It's almost mistakable for like Europe in some ways. It's a little barren, apparently it's dry. And we are headed over to the other side of the island, which is Hilo, and apparently that's like the really wet rainforest jungle side. So apparently we're driving to a waterfall right now in the jungle, but it does not look like there's a waterfall to be seen anywhere for miles around, and apparently we'll be there in 45 minutes. So we're gonna try that. We're gonna check out Hilo, the town, explore some of it a bit, and then we have nice dinner reservations tonight at this Italian restaurant. So excited for the first full day. Happy to be back in a car. I haven't been back in a car in a hot minute. Thank you to my lovely sister for doing all the driving. Shout out, appreciate it. I have not driven in probably 3 years now. My license is not even valid. So we were just discussing and looking up some of the things about the Big Island, and this is the youngest Hawaiian island. The Big Island, it's only 500,000 years old, so it's practically a baby. The oldest Hawaiian island is 70 million years old, and that's maybe why a lot of the trees have not really had a chance. No, so you get plenty of time. There's trees on the other side. We were also wondering if Hawaii, because it's if these islands just form from the middle of the ocean, do they have any indigenous species? And apparently they do have an indigenous, the only indigenous mammal species is the hoary bat. It's where did these bats come from? Did they just fly from, I don't even know where?
They came out of the Earth's magma.
Yeah, they came out of the Earth's magma and just exist now on the island for some reason. Besides that, they do have indigenous sea turtles, some fauna, plants, some seabirds, which makes sense, you would expect that. I don't know where the bats came from though. Bats are just fascinating animals. Also, did you know bats are one of the only other mammals who have a period? It was crazy. I know, that's a fun bat fact. There's so many fun bat facts. They're such a unique creature. So suddenly we're here at Rainbow Waterfalls, and we were in the barren desert, and suddenly it's a jungle now. This is Rainbow Waterfalls, and it's a sunny day. On sunny days, you're supposed to be able to see rainbows. Haven't seen a rainbow yet, but we'll go and take a closer look. This is a 24-meter or 80-foot waterfall. View from the top too. Alas, no rainbows, probably because it's actually getting pretty cloudy now, which is not surprising because this is the really rainy, wet, tropical side of the island. Oh well, still a really cool waterfall now, even without the rainbow. 7 out of 10 for no rainbow. If there had been a rainbow, it would have been a 10 out of 10. Part of that too, it was super easy to get to. It was right off the main road, not even a 2-minute walk up to the waterfall. So for how easy it was a really pretty big waterfall. But now it is time for lunch, so we're gonna go into the city of Hilo proper and find somewhere good to eat. You can really tell that Hilo is the local side of the island where most of the locals live. There were way less tourists around, and the town actually reminded me of a lot of small towns that I've been to in America as well. I mean, makes sense, Hilo is still America. Anyways, we found a also very local Vietnamese place. I know we're in Hawaii, we're having Vietnamese food. I really wanted some pho, guys, so I got a nice bowl of beef pho, and my sister got the vermicelli pork version, I believe. It was delicious, and it was run by local Hawaiians, so I feel like it counts for, you know, our first Hawaiian meal. Okay everyone, we're back in Japan. That was a fun trip to Hawaii. Let me know, would you get, no I'm kidding, obviously. This is a Japanese style garden behind us, and it's one of the famous ones in Hilo, and it's known for their banyan trees, which are one of my favorite trees. The name of this park is Lili Uo Kalani Park. Hey, the names in Hawaiian are way more difficult than the Japanese names in my opinion, but I'm very excited. I can see the banyan trees already, so let's go check it out. These are the banyan trees, and they're everywhere in Hilo. This is a massive one. The really cool thing, this is one of my favorite trees. You might think like, oh, look at all these vines, but these aren't vines, they're aerial roots, and they actually grow into the ground to form new tree trunks. So if you like look at the trunk of the tree, those used to all be like the aerial roots. And another fun fact about this tree too is that they have evolved with wasps in particular, so that they are the only animal that can help pollinate these trees. So I guess we have to be on the lookout for wasps. Did we bring those over to Hawaii too? I haven't seen one yet, so maybe not. But then how does this tree get pollinated? So that must mean there are wasps. Stay tuned, we will get to the bottom of this. Hi guys, future voiceover Alyssa here. I did get to the bottom of it. So we did actually introduce the wasp in 1921 to specifically pollinate the banyan trees. So the wasps breed inside the figs that the banyan trees produces. Pretty cool. So as we were walking up, I was like, oh, so cool, there's like a pond in the middle. That's really neat. I've never seen that in like a Japanese garden before. It's not really a pond, it's just super flooded. If you look, there's actually like a bridge that goes down into the flood part. So I think it's like a makeshift pond we get special just today. Or maybe whenever it rains, which is probably a lot. So maybe it really is a pond, who knows? After the park, we felt like it was time for a snack, so we headed back into the city, and there was something my sister really wanted to try, which was shaved ice. So we found this very famous shaved ice place, and I swear like 90% of the tourists I saw in all of Hilo were at this like one location here, so that must mean it's good, right? Okay, so we've come to get some shaved ice. Bam, there it is. Kakigori in Japanese, but I think this is like Hawaiian style. So this is guava and coconut with condensed milk on top. So apparently this place is really cute, outdoor seating. This is actually for my sister, it's not even for me. I don't really like shaved ice, but in theory I like it, so. Okay, I'm gonna try a bite. Oh my gosh. The guava is so fresh, like I can actually taste it. That's really surprising. Wow, maybe I would like shaved ice more if they all taste like this. Okay, well we had to bolt out of there because we realized the last thing we want to go see, the how do you say? Akaka. The Akaka Falls or whatever, they close at 5 and it was like 3:30 and it takes about 20-30 minutes to drive there, so we bolted out. Hopefully we'll have enough time to see the falls in all their beauty. Here we go. Okay, so we just entered the Akaka Falls Park, and now this finally looks like the tropical jungle rainforest Hawaii that I was promised from the start. So the guy told us, very friendly, told us that it is about a 30-minute hike down to the waterfall, which, as you know, someone who lives in Tokyo, I was like, 30 minutes? That's nothing. Let's do it and enjoy this gorgeous scenery. And it's not even a hiking trail, it's all like paved stairs, so I think we'll be okay. We're descending into the jungle. Hike is like my favorite thing we've done so far. It's so pretty. It goes through the deep like jungle. It's a great way to see the rainforest up close. There's another giant banyan tree that I wanted to like stay and take pictures at, but it started to rain and we don't have umbrellas or anything, so we gotta pick up the pace here because this could potentially be very bad to get stuck out in the middle of the jungle in a rain downpour. So we're gonna hurry up. Who would have thought rain in a rainforest? And yet I'm surprised. Well, it's starting to rain heavier. I've donned the hat. The good news is the waterfall, it looks like it's right in front of us. So that wasn't bad at all. That walk was nothing, so. Here it is, and honestly, I've seen pictures of this, but the view is even more incredible in person. And honestly, it's kind of raining, but I think the mist adds to the ambiance to give it the whole like Mystic Valley vibe. But yeah, the hike was easy. It took us like 15 minutes or something. Hike, not even a hike. So totally worth it. You gotta check it out. We're on our walk back from that waterfall 10 out of 10 for sure, and the hike only makes it better. Like I said, 50 minutes, super easy. So now we're gonna head back over to our side of the island, the barren side, kinda, and get ready for our dinner tonight. So on our drive back from Hilo to Kona, which is about 1.5 hours by the way, the thing that really shocked me the most the entire trip about the Big Island is how diverse the climate and biomes were. The Big Island alone is home to 18 out of the 13 different climates that the earth possesses, and 1 minute you'd be in a tropical rainforest, and then you'd be like, is this Twilight? Am I going through like Forks, Washington here? Because suddenly it looks, you know, like the Northwest of America, and it'd be pouring down rain so heavily, and then you'd be driving for 30 minutes and suddenly it'd become all misty, and you'd look around and be like, oh, am I in the English countryside now? I could swear this is what, you know, England looks like 364 days out of the year. But then you keep driving a little more, it's like, oh, the sun's coming up, it's looking really nice now, and then suddenly it doesn't look like England anymore. Now it looks like, oh, I feel like this is a lot of different small towns I've been to in America. I've seen this maybe in the Midwest, this area before, like, oh, look, a rainbow, just to remember we're in Hawaii. That's awesome. Why? Okay, now we're in Texas, the prairie, for some reason. What are all these like prairie fields going on here? And it's like I'm back at home. Or even Australia. Actually, I haven't been to Australia, so Australians, let me know, does this look like Australia at all, remotely, vaguely? No kangaroos, I know, but you know, just over under on how much it looks like it. And then you'd see the coast again, and you remember you're on the island, and you'd see mountains in the distance, and you notice here, this is within like 30-45 minutes, it's completely sunny, clear, gorgeous. I don't even know what this biome is really. And then you'd remember that we're on a volcanic island, and that there'd be black igneous rock and ash that creates these really dramatic looking landscapes with black covered hills that looks like nowhere else on Earth, really. And then suddenly you'd be driving across, looking at the ocean, looking at these black covered hills, and then it'd be prairie again. And then suddenly, very quickly, we're back in Kona, and it's looking like a tropical rainforest once more. And oh, now we're back at our Airbnb, which is very much Hawaii, what you'd picture as Hawaii anyways. Our first night, after quickly getting changed back at our Airbnb, we had reservations for the restaurant Jackie Ray's on the island, which is a really popular island. We had a pretty late dinner reservation, well, like 8:39. The thing is, like, you can see it's pretty empty here. Nowhere on the Big Island was crowded, and I think that's a huge benefit to coming to the Big Island instead of, you know, Honolulu, Oahu, the popular islands. This restaurant was known for the homemade crab cakes, which I adore crab cakes so much. They were delicious. The restaurant was a seafood Italian specialty place, so my sister, of course, being in Hawaii, she got the lovely sea bass, which was delicious, and me being me, I really can't say no to pasta, so I got like an Alfredo tortellini, which was delicious and the perfect way to end our first full day. Aloha, or Hawaii, oh no wait, Ohio, or aloha as they say in Hawaii. So day 2, we have a really fun day planned today. The big thing today is we're going on a stargazing tour. So we're gonna go up the tallest mountain on the Big Island, and they have a international observatory on there, and apparently the view is just amazing. We have to like drive all the way up the mountain. But that tour does not leave until 2:30. So first, we're gonna actually take some time, enjoy our lovely Airbnb that we're staying at. So we're gonna go down to the pool. And this is a good chance I'll show you guys the Airbnb that we're staying at. It's super cute. Most people don't stay in hotels when they stay on the Big Island. Although there's some fancy like resorts and stuff, I think the better way is to stay at an Airbnb. And we're right on the ocean too. So let's go check it out. So it's very simple. Here's like our living room, very spacious. We have a massive TV that we have not watched at all yet. But the best part of the apartment, of course, is the balcony. Nice table. There's one of the pools. There's actually 2 pools, and beyond is the ocean. But we'll get a closer view of that in a minute. Okay, now on to the part everyone really cares about, the pools. There was 2 pools. This was the freshwater pool, which we didn't really use because it's boring. And especially when you have this view and this beach and this private saltwater pool, why would you even bother with the freshwater pool? Yeah, we had our own private beach in front of our Airbnb. Well, we have got first row seats, and the island gave me a little present. I found this on the sidewalk. Beautiful hair accessory. This is super relaxing. The Airbnb is so quiet too, so we just have basically front row beachside seats to ourselves. Maybe I'll get around to swimming in the pool. We shall see. This is really comfy. Me and my sister were talking after the trip, and we both kind of agreed that if we could have done one thing differently, we would have maybe planned less in our trip because our Airbnb was so nice to hang out with. We only actually got to use the private beach and the pool a handful of times because we had planned so much and there was so much we wanted to do and see on the island. And we had planned this day in particular just to have the first half of the day to relax at the Airbnb. But honestly, if we could go back and do it, we probably would have maybe even planned whole days just here. Isn't it lovely? This is such like perfect temperature. It's like bath water. It feels great. The ocean waves sound amazing. Oh, this is such a nice, it's salt water too. It's salty, yeah. Oh my God, I can't stand. The pool's pretty deep. I'm not that tall. I can only stand for so long. So it was about time for lunch, and we really wanted to try poke, which is one of the most popular meals in Hawaiian, obviously, basically just raw fish with some flavoring on it. And my sister looked up this really famous little poke shack, this small little building, very unassuming building, but apparently it's pretty famous on the Big Island and has some of the best poke. Okay, so slight change of plans. We just got word that our star canceling tour was canceled because apparently it's cloudy because it's a tropic environment that it's cloudy all the time. So we tried to reschedule for Friday. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. But in the meantime, we've stopped here to get poke, which is like traditional Hawaiian lunch, which is just like some rice and then raw fish marinated in something. So I got the shoyu, which if you know, is just soy sauce in Japanese, kimchi, and what was the last one? And garlic spice. And today we're gonna swap our days. After this, we're gonna go to a coffee farm, which they're famous for here. They gave us a fork, you know, in case you can't use the chopsticks, but of course, I'm a pro. So let's try. So this is the shoyu. It's so good, it's really fresh. And the chili. It's delicious. It reminds me of sashimi, obviously, raw fish, but it's really good. After lunch, we headed up into the mountainous area of Kona, which is famous for their coffee farms. And a lot of these coffee farms offer free tours where you can walk around, view the premise, see the process of them making coffee. This one we went to was called Greenwell Coffee Farms, and it was lovely. Right at the beginning, they already had a bunch of coffee you could sample before the tour even started. And this was honestly a highlight for me. And I'm gonna give you a lot of coffee facts, and pretty much all the coffee facts I learned on this tour. I was not very knowledgeable beforehand. So even though Greenwell Farms is primarily a coffee farm and 80 to 90% of the trees we saw were coffee trees, they cultivate a lot of other things too, like avocados, which take a bunch of water to grow. They had tequila plants, and of course they had banana trees as well. I didn't know, by the way, the bananas usually had this like tail thing hanging off of them. It was pretty interesting to see. They don't show that in the movies. And vanilla, which only blooms one day every year. So they say it's a boring flavor. I disagree. My favorite though was these peppercorn trees. So these peppercorn, these green little beads that grow off, this is what pepper is. So they roast them and that's what turns it black. But you can actually eat these green beads as is, and it tastes just like really, really fresh pepper. So I was kind of snacking on these throughout the tour because they let us take like a handful. Okay, on to the actual tour itself. So the first thing we saw were these coffee trees, which, you know, if you didn't know, coffee beans are grown from coffee trees. These trees were planted over 100 years ago. They were called grandmother trees when Greenwell Farms first started. And these trees, they're kind of past its life expectancy. They don't really produce that many coffee cherries anymore, which, by the way, these are the coffee cherries. This is what they first look like, but they keep them just as kind of a tradition. The main part of the farm where all the coffee trees were cultivated was these. And the thing that sets Kona Coffee Farms apart is that they are all hand-picked. Every single hand cherry, they have people come in and they pick them all by hand, which is insane because there's hundreds and hundreds of these on a single branch. When they are the bright red color, that means they are ready to be picked. The green ones are still raw and not quite ready. Okay, after the cherries are hand-picked, they are taken over to be sorted in this building here. And basically, they have a camera that looks at all the cherries as they go beneath the camera. The camera lens is right here. And by color, they discertain which cherries need to be A, thrown out here into these trash buckets because they are not ripe yet. That's what these cherries are. They've been rejected. Or the ones that are good and ready to actually be processed. And then they are sent to a machine that, well, this is a very small one, but basically be cracked and crunched out of the cherry shell. Because I don't know if you guys have seen a coffee bean before, but they're not usually bright red. So we have to get the coffee bean from inside the cherry. So the cherries that are good for grinding go through this grinder here. And then once they're done, they are popped out and, you know, they get to this first layer. If I learned anything about coffee cherry beans this trip is that they're like onions. They have a bunch of layers. So next we actually have to dry the coffee bean. And I know it looks pretty dry already, but apparently there's still too much moisture in it. So they air dry them on these racks called hochidana, which is actually Japanese for drying rack, something unique that Kona coffee farms do as opposed to other coffee farms. And then after a couple days of drying, it is finally ready to be cracked open for a second time. And then this finally reveals the coffee bean that you can go ahead and roast to get the actual coffee drink. We also visited their nursery where I learned that there's only actually 4 types of coffee beans or coffee trees. The ones they have here are Arabica, but besides that, all the different blends and types and variation basically come from like the soil, how long you grow it, the weather that year. So really, it basically all just comes from coffee trees, and then the different flavors and profiles are based off of, you know, other variables. Also, fun fact, dark roast has the least caffeine because you roast it the longest and the caffeine dissipates more. So after the tour, we headed back down the mountain into downtown Kona. Now this is really like the tourist center. It has a bunch of restaurant bars that are very clearly catered towards tourists. There was even a cruise ship in port today. So there was more tourists walking around than usual, but still not too crowded. Anyhow, we figured we learned about one of Kona's most popular drinks, right? Coffee. It was only fitting for research purposes to learn about one of their other most popular drinks, the Mai Tai. So we headed over to the Royal Kona Resort to Don's Mai Tai Bar, and oh my gosh, I love this architecture. The Greeks had it perfect with their pillars and open verandas and terraces. Ugh. Absolutely amazing. So this bar is famous for Mai Tais, which of course is a drink from Hawaii, which is made out of rum, curacao, liqueur, lime juice, some orange syrup, and they are really pretty. They're very aesthetic. Here's the thing about Mai Tais, in my opinion, though. I actually think it's a little bit of a mid drink. Like, there's a reason you don't really find them that common outside of tropical areas in Hawaii, unlike, you know, say a margarita or a more classic cocktail. They're sweet, but don't even have that distinct of a taste. So even though they're super fun to have on a vacation, they wouldn't necessarily, ooh, look, a real quick interlude. Coconut shrimp though, delicious, totally worth the hype. Oh my gosh, coconut, sorry, it just popped up. Anyhow, I was just saying, Mai Tais, not the best drink I think ever. I enjoyed it just because, you know, the atmosphere. I was in Hawaii, but I probably wouldn't go out of my way to try to find one, let's say outside of Hawaii or in the wild later on. In fact, I think after I had my Mai Tai, if you look, yeah, see, look, that's not even a Mai Tai glass, that's a margarita glass I'm drinking there. I switched to margaritas for the second drink. But anyhow, this bar, 10 out of 10 though, would absolutely recommend. We got treated to another gorgeous sunset, and of course, it being a bar for tourists, there's the sounds of the football game playing in the background, just like home. Anyways, after a couple drinks at the Mai Tai Bar, we decided we were going to cook ourselves dinner tonight. So we headed over to a Safeway, a supermarket in Hawaii. And wow, I gotta say, I completely forgot living in Japan how big and massive American grocery markets are. Okay, welcome to our Airbnb's kitchen. We got a glass of wine. We're gonna save money tonight. So instead of spending $100 at a restaurant, we only spent about $90 at a grocery store to buy fish. So we're gonna have ahi tuna, some vegetables with a teriyaki sauce, and of course the traditional Hawaiian food, Kraft macaroni and cheese, all prepared under 5 minutes or less. Well, each takes 5 minutes, and we have limited space, so it might take more, but let the cooking begin. Okay, we finished cooking. That took about less than 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes max. Super easy. I think it turned out pretty nice if I do say so myself. My little sister's a pretty good chef, and I'm even better. No, I'm kidding. But It was a lovely day, very chill. Tomorrow we are planning on going to one of the best rated beaches in the world, but in the meantime, we shall enjoy our beautiful home cooked meal with some help from the supermarket on our balcony and with perfect, beautiful room temperature weather out at night. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Aloha kakahiaka, which means good morning, according to the Google search I just did right now. Anyhow, today we are going to the beach, but first it is the morning, which means it is time to try one of our most anticipated Hawaiian foods, which is the malasada, or the Hawaiian donut. This little food truck here in the middle of nowhere was one of the highest rated malasada places, and oh my god, look at these things. They are so good. You can have different fillings in them that you get to pick. So we did the guave fillings and a strawberry-like filling. Also came with drinks. And then we arrived at Hapuna Beach, which is a national park and one of the highest rated naturally occurring beaches in the world. So Hapuna Beach is actually in the north of the Big Island, which is where all the fancy ritzy tourists go to stay. They built all their like luxury resorts there and shopping malls and everything. So, you know, a lot of rich tourists are at this beach too, but don't worry, our Airbnb actually gave us Tommy Bahama chairs to fit right in. If you don't know, Tommy Bahama is basically the Louis Vuitton of the beach designer world, or so I am told. Anyhow, they also gave us an umbrella, and this is something most Airbnbs will do. They'll give you beach supplies, and I was in charge of setting up the umbrella, which I gotta say, I am an expert at. Mahalo. Actually, I think that's thank you. Aloha. We have arrived at Hapuna Beach, rated one of the most beautiful beaches in the world, and this is the most beach-looking beach I've ever seen be a beach. It is amazing. We have our gear set up. We have a beautiful feast laid out in front of us. I remembered that we're in America, so I can get goldfish and Sour Patch, two things I cannot get in Japan. I can get here. Very excited for that. We also have some fruit, and we're also going to try our malasadas, which we got at this really cute little food truck that was just out in the middle of nowhere, but apparently it's very highly rated and apparently very, very delicious. Here is the beautiful malasada. This one has no filling, although I think some of the filling from the others kind of gotten on it. Oh my god. They are so good. Oh my god. Probably the best like donut I've ever had. Which is also like, they don't have good donuts in Tokyo. They just don't. This is amazing. If you're coming out to this beach, gotta stop at this little food truck, malasada food truck. So this beach is a national state park, which means there's no like tiki stalls or like, you know, drink shops or anything. So make sure you bring like all your own food. I have my fruit bowl. Very good. So my general strategy when I go to the beach is try to stay under the shade as much as possible, because trust me, I can get sunburn at night walking under a street lamp. My sister is a little luckier than I am, and she's able to tan and develop a nice tan, so that's what she did. We both applied a bunch of sunscreen, and it's important to note that in Hawaii you have to use sunscreen that is reef safe, so you don't damage any of the natural reefs. But this sunscreen, we made a mistake and got the spray on instead of the rub-on lotion, and man, it only covered exactly where you sprayed it on. So even though I know I'm in the water here, I went out once. This is the one time I went out into the water for about 10 minutes tops after spending so long putting on sunscreen. I still got sunburned because that kind of reef-safe sunscreen really doesn't spread, so be careful when you get that. Still though, I had a great time at Hapuna Beach and it was absolutely lovely. Wow, I'm glowing. It's sunset golden hour right now, but I'm also glowing because yeah, I got sunburned on the beach, even though I wore so much sunscreen and I tried so hard and I was under the shade for 95% of the time. The sunscreen was like not very good. I don't think you can see, I kind of got burned on my arm too. But right now we are going to swim with manta rays on the tour. I don't know how much I'll be able to film because, you know, it's underwater and it's a bunch of manta rays. But we're gonna have a nice boat ride out there and I am excited. Although the streets, it's been taking a minute to get there because the streets, it floods so bad here. Like the streets were completely flooded. They had roads blocked off. And apparently I think that's pretty part of the course because it wasn't even raining that heavily and it caused all the streets to flood. So I think that's just a matter of fact of life if you live here. But you get a beautiful sunset after the rainstorm, so that's nice. So while we were away 2 hours at the beautiful beach, you know, clear sunny day, it was raining pretty heavily back in Kona, which is where we're driving through now. And because Kona is situated at the base of a mountain, all the rainfall and all the water from up the mountain crashes down, so it floods really easily. But regardless, we made our way over to the dock, which is where our beautiful catamaran was gonna take off. And look at this sunset. Sunsets after rain are always beautiful, especially in Hawaii. So this, as I mentioned before, is a manta ray tour, and the Big Island is one of the only places in the world you can actually swim with manta rays. Look at my cute little wetsuit here. Even though it was pretty warm outside, I ended up using, being really glad I had that wetsuit later on. This tour was also on a luxury catamaran, which was super fun, and it was only a really quick, like 10-minute boat ride out to the manta rays. I wish we had more time, honestly, because the catamaran was awesome. I rushed ahead so I could get the catamaran seats out front so I could sit on the nets. I'm like the only one on the boat right now because I ran ahead of everyone. But that's the early bird gets the worm. So after everyone boarded the boat, we took off, and on the quick 10 to 15 minute boat ride over, they told us about why this spot in particular was the manta ray viewing spot, and it is because a couple years ago they built this luxury hotel off the coast, and at the hotel they had a giant spotlight that shone into the ocean. And what did this spotlight attract? Not manta rays, but plankton. But what did the plankton attract? Manta rays. So that's why this is one of the best viewing spots in the world to see the manta rays, because they come and they feed on these manta rays almost 365 days a year. So I think this is like one of the only spots in the world where you can see manta rays, and loads of them every single day. So they handed out our snorkeling gear, and they give us a quick safety lecture on how the viewing would happen. So what would happen is after they anchored the boat, they would launch this little like floaty device. You can kind of see it here. And one at a time, they gave us like a pool noodle. We would hang off, we would hold on to the floating device with our hands, and then the floating noodle will be beneath our feet, and we'd hang and kind of float in the water and then look directly down. You can see there's also lights at the base of these floating devices that attract the plankton, that attract the manta rays. So one at a time, we'd get off the boat, swim, get our place in line, and yeah, you'll see what we see next. So from almost the moment we got to our spot and I stuck my head in the water, I was greeted almost immediately with just, I think, about 8 or so different manta rays. And what you're seeing here is pretty much what we saw. I remember sticking my head in for the first time, and I gasped in surprise with how close they were and how ginormous they are. They get up to 23 feet, like wingspan length, and they weigh up to 4,000 pounds sometimes, which is absolutely insane. And they are literally right in front of your face. I actually inhaled water through my snorkel because I gasped so many times that the manta rays getting closer. And they do these barrel rolls to eat the plankton, and their mouths are directly in front of your face. And if you were just to even move your hand a little bit, you could reach out and touch them. They were so close. Honestly, this is like one of the craziest, coolest things I did. Obviously, don't touch them. Don't touch, you only look, but they are literally like a couple inches from your face, doing barrel rolls with their giant mouths open at you. Wow! They're so cool. They're honestly one of my favorite animals after doing this experience. We were in the water for about 40 minutes or so, and the whole time it was just manta ray after manta ray. It's hard to believe that they were all like right under the surface of where our catamaran was floating to. Hello and welcome to the next day. So we started this day off right by visiting a cute local cafe called Hilo Coffee, and they have their own kind of chain, their own brand, their own Hawaiian coffee. And I got a really popular flavor, which is also popular in Japan, called ume, which is this purple stuff on top. It's actually like a Japanese sweet potato. And along with the coffee, of course, for breakfast, we got some avo toast. As a classic millennial, I have to represent my avo toast. We also picked up the merch, the t-shirt. I loved this dark purple color, which was really nice. But after the coffee, it was on to the main event of today, which is the Volcano National Park, which is one of the biggest things to do on the Big Island and one of the main reasons to come to the Big Island. Now, the national park is actually located in the town of Volcano. That's its name. I assume whoever's job it was to name that city got off work early that day. Apt name, very succinct and to the point. Anyways, it is about a 2.5-3 hour drive over to the Volcano National Park because it's on a very isolated part of the island. But on the way to the national park, there is one big stop that we really wanted to see too, and that is the famous Black Sand Beach. Hello, welcome. The theme of today is volcano. So we're gonna go see Volcano Park, but first we have come to some beautiful black sand beaches, which, if you don't know, is the opposite of white sand beaches. The volcanicness, the igneous rocks here mixed in with the sand to form the most beautiful black sand beaches in the world. So that's what we were at today. First, I had a cuter outfit, by the way. This was not the planned volcano outfit, but but I got sunburned yesterday on my shoulders and stuff, so we're rocking the Zelda t-shirt, which was only supposed to be my pajamas, but we're here representing, and I'm really excited. This is already gorgeous. So we're gonna head to the black sand beaches now. So if you don't know, the Big Island is known for its volcanoes, and these beaches formed because this was literally the lava that flowed down and into the ocean and then hardened to form the igneous rock. And you can literally see like the edges of the curves of where the magma and lava used to be flowing, which is really, really neat. And then the beach over there is like when it gets all eroded and gets put into the sand. So we're gonna go see the fine sand next. This beach is not only known for black sand, but for sea turtles. And look, there's a bunch of sea turtles just chilling in the sun. I guess the black sand is like really nice. It's like you're trapped in an oven, you know? The heat comes up too. It's really nice. So these waves are pretty intense. I don't think I'd recommend swimming here, but it's really cool to sea turtle watch and black sand watch. But swimming, I don't know, it seems a little scary, to be honest. They even have signs that say like high current, like be careful. And they have a lifeguard station right in the middle of the beach, but there's like nobody swimming, so. So back on the road again, and as we drive to the Volcano National Park, we actually go through a desert. So this is one of Hawaii, the Big Island's biomes. This is a desert, this is the Kau Desert, which gets so little rainfall, it is technically considered a desert. And then after a little bit longer, we finally arrive at the Volcano National Park where we pull into the visitor center. And then after we check out the map to see what kind of trails we want to hike and how to get around the crater of the volcano, we head out to the very first stop. And it's only about a 10-minute walk from the visitor center, and it is the steam vents. Okay, we are starting our little volcanic hike. We are 4,000 feet up. That's our elevation. For reference, that's about 4,000 rulers stacked on top of each other. And right now, our first stop on this volcanic hike on the crater of this volcano is the steam vents. So steam vents occur, I just learned, when previously all the magma that was propping up the volcano collapses in, which causes cracks in the ground, which causes the steam to come up through them. So here we are, and I don't know if you can see the steam on camera, but we're gonna try to get closer so we can see it. So even though we were on the trail that was labeled like the steam vent trail, these were all over the park, constantly all over the volcanoes, and they were just like right off the trail. Like this small little hole in particular here was less than a foot off the given path. So that hole I was just talking about, apparently that actually formed when in 2000 a visitor stepped off of the trail, broke through the crust of the surface, and burned his leg off, because that steam right there is over about 200 degrees. So stay on the little path, that's what we're gonna do for sure. So as we continued to meander through the steam vents, we headed on to the main attraction of this national park, which of course is Crater Rim Trail, because you know this whole time you're driving to the park, you're basically going up the volcano, and then at the top is the crater of the volcano. So this trail is 11 miles long and pretty much circles around the entire rim. We only did 2.7 miles of it from the visitor center to the viewing point, to the best viewing point, but we did do there and back, keep in mind. So that's like what, 5.4 miles total. So we hiked quite a bit this day. We did it. We are at the rim of the volcano crater. It was only like a 20-25 minute hike from the information center, and it is amazing. I realized this is kind of my first time being on a volcano. I don't really count Mount Fuji, I've never climbed it, and I wish the camera did it justice. It does not do it justice. Yeah, so when I said like we made it, I meant we made it to a viewing spot, not like the viewing spot, like what people say is the best vantage point. So that was like, 0.7 miles, and we still had like, a whole 2 extra miles to hike. But the entire hike is along the rim and your view is constantly changing, so it's worth doing the whole thing. So here's the view from the best viewpoint available. The hike was not that bad at all. It went by really quickly, but if you're not keen on the 2.7-mile hike and you want to save your endurance and energy for later on in the park because there's still a lot to see that you can only hike to, you can drive to this vantage point and park and see the view and then walk back. But we didn't know that. We didn't have a car, so we started on our journey back from the vantage point to go back to the visitor center and then past that because the next thing we wanted to see was the tunnels, the lava tunnels, which this park is also famous for. Although I think the hike back is really cool. You see a lot of like steam vents and things on the way back. So I would recommend it if you like hiking because I feel like half of the point of going to a national park is to go on a bunch of different hikes. But with that being said, eventually we decided to drive our car to the next vantage point. After hiking in a much more efficient method, aka riding in a car, we've gotten to the other crater. So this is the miniature crater. So this one's all cute and self-contained. And compared to that last crater we saw, it's pretty adorable. On this side too, we also have the lava tubes, which we are going to next. And also if you look down there, you see people walking across the crater. So you can actually hike across this one. I don't think we're gonna do that because it looks a little desolate. And I
kind of want to.
And you don't. And my sister doesn't want to either. So
I said I kind of want to.
Oh no, no, vetoed. Older sister privilege to veto that.
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay. So in the jungle section of the park is the lava tubes. Now lava tubes are formed when lava runs underground and then once it dries and leaves that area, it creates a tunnel. That's what's left behind from the huge massive lava flows. And of course the Big Island being a volcano island, there are hundreds of these tunnels all across the island. The Kazumura lava tube system is around 500 years old and is more than 40 miles long, and it's thought to be the longest lava tube cave in the world. Cool thing about these caves too is that when they finally cool down and clear out of lava, they are home to a bunch of different species of crickets and spiders that are only found here in these lava tubes, nowhere else in the world. So these are pretty cool to walk through. Obviously these are very safe and lit up, but there's actually these tunnels all over the place. All right, my little sister talked me into it. We are walking the 1.2 miles down to the crater floor. She's hard to say no to. So yes, my sister vetoed my veto and wanted to hike across the crater, so we descended down the mountainside on the mile-long hike, and once you reach the base of the mountain, you could actually look back up and see the exact starting point. You could see how far you've come and how steep the descent was, but honestly, it was totally worth it because once we reached the base, it looked like pretty much no other landscape I had ever seen before. This is an active volcano, so you know the crater erupted not too long ago, which is why you have all this black igneous sand here. It reminds me a lot of the western deserts in America, except for the red clay, it is, you know, black volcanic ash. Now you can walk across this entire crater. The trail does go across the center. We did not do that because this was towards the end of the day and we had already hiked a bunch and we were getting tired and we still had the, you know, ascent left to do, another mile back up and another mile to the car. But if you wanted to, you could walk across the whole thing and it actually links back to the main crater and crater rim that we had walked through earlier. But if you get the chance, save your energy for this because this was honestly one of the most unique places I had ever had the privilege to go to. It was just really, really, really beautiful. Almost like so black and so bright that the camera really doesn't do it justice, once again, which is like the theme, you know, of truly beautiful places. So after we had enjoyed the view, we hiked back up and we were about ready to call it a day at that point. We had been there for several hours and in total we hiked around 8 miles. A lot of the hiking was pretty easy. The most strenuous hike was definitely up and down the cliffside at the end, but honestly, really nice paved hiking trails, super easy to do, highly recommend. If you want to save yourself a bit of the hiking, look at all the spots you can drive to, because most of the spots you can actually drive to instead of hike back and forth from the visitor center. The next morning, we woke up bright and early and of course started our day once again at a cafe to get some coffee. Today's coffee of choice was the honeycomb coffee without the bees, and after that we took an hour-long drive to our next destination. Welcome to Two-Step Beach. This is one of the most popular snorkeling spots on the Big Island. There's even some dolphins out there. Well, I think they're dolphins, not sharks. Hopefully they're dolphins because my little sister is going snorkeling. I'm not. I'm just here to observe. But I'm excited. I'm going to give her my water lanyard so hopefully we get some cool snorkeling shots and she finds a lot of stuff. So despite what the name might imply, there is no beach at Two Step Beach. Instead, there is only volcanic rock that offers a launching off point into the water. In fact, the reason it's called Two Step Beach is because there are in fact two steps. Here they are, the two volcanic rock steps that you can use to launch yourself into the water. So here my sister goes. She brought her own snorkeling gear, by the way. What an expert, what a pro, as she goes to snorkel. So this is also home to a bunch of reefs, which of course are home to a bunch of fish, a bunch of different coral, marine life. It's really, really beautiful. And of course the water is crystal clear. It's also recommended to go on a sunny day. So then the sun illuminates all the water and all the life that you will see under the water. Don't worry, I can still monitor my sister from my comfy little spot here in case those dolphins we saw earlier turn out to be sharks. If they are sharks, I'm not sure how much help I'd be or what I'd do, but I would be first on the scene, so being responsible. Honestly, even though I wasn't snorkeling, I still had a great time just walking around, looking at the shallow pools, watching the dolphins play. Honestly, I spent a good 30-45 minutes just dolphin watching. Eventually, though, our clear blue day turned a little cloudy and we could sense the oncoming rain, so we decided it was probably best to head back because this was about an hour drive from Kona. We didn't want to get trapped in the rain. So after getting back into the city, we headed to Magic's Beachside Grill. We had big plans for dinner tonight, so we only wanted a light pick-me-up. So we ordered drinks. I got a ume margarita, that purple drink from before. It's looking a little more blue than purple today, but that's okay. It's trying its best. You know, it can't look purple every day. We also got some ceviche, which is delicious. It was really good. And are those chopsticks? Did it come with chopsticks? Do you usually use chopsticks to put the fish on the tortilla chip? Surely I would not be so annoying as to ask for chopsticks when it didn't come with any. I'm just gonna assume that everyone uses chopsticks when eating this dish. Please don't correct me if I'm wrong, but either way, it was really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot. And then I'm using my hands, so what was the point of the chopsticks in the first place if I was just gonna use my hand? You know what, to move the fish onto the tortilla chip, the chopsticks would be optimal instead of just using your hands to dip your hands into the communal fish. But anyway, so I'm ranting. It's not important. It's really not important. Anyways, after that, we headed back to our Airbnb to relax a little bit before we go to our big event of tonight. And I'll go ahead and tell you, it is a luau. So we're going to a traditional Hawaiian luau, which is one of the things I was most excited for. All right, we just got back from snorkeling and I'm super excited for what we're doing next. We're going to a luau, a traditional Hawaiian luau. There's gonna be fire dancers, kalua pork, the ocean, traditional culture heritage site, so we can really embrace the culture. I'm super excited. I went down to the pool. We're back at our Airbnb now, getting ready for the luau, and I went down to the pool and I picked up this beautiful flower that was just laying on the ground and had fallen off one of the trees to really complete my luau look. So I'm very excited. We're gonna go to a luau now. Hooray! So our luau took place at the Courtyard Marriott's King Kamehameha's Kona Beach Hotel, a little bit of a mouthful, and was called the Island Breeze Luau. Now before the show actually started, there is a lot of pre-shows you could walk around and see and take part in. The coolest one was definitely the removal of the kalua pig. So kalua in Hawaiian just basically means to cook underground. So this is a traditional meal where they basically take a pig, wrap it in banana leaves, bury it underground, and let it cook for 7 or 8 hours. And then right before the luau, they'll take it out, remove it, and prepare it for all the guests. And you'll see it basically just falls apart because it's so tender. Because Hawaii was volcanic rocks that rose from the ocean, pigs are obviously not indigenous to Hawaii, but they were first brought over by the Polynesians and then later by Captain James Cook. Now, traditionally, women weren't allowed to eat kalua pork because pigs were considered a male demigod. But King Kamehameha, who this hotel was named after and actually whose royal palace was on this exact luau site, changed the rules so that women could finally partake in eating of the kalua pig during luau's too. Thank you, Kamehameha. There was also a lovely lady teaching us hula and giving hula dancing lessons. I did partake. My natural talent, I learned, is not hula dancing, but that's okay because it was still really fun to do. Hula dancing actually has a really interesting origin because it's as old as the Hawaiian people itself, but there's actually no recorded history of where it originally came from. There's a lot of myth and legends that surround it, one of them being that a navigator goddess originally came up with it and taught the Hawaiian people it, but it's as old as the Hawaiian people itself. and I think I'll also leave it to the Hawaiians to do. Of course, the last big task we had to complete before the show started was to create our dinner plates from the beautiful all-you-can-eat Hawaiian-style buffet. They had so many good things here. Of course, they had the kalua pork we saw earlier. They had a whole bunch of freshly caught island fish. They had sweet potatoes, coconut-style fish, lomi-lomi, salmon, poi. They had fried tofu poke with kale. Oh, look, those are the Japanese ume, purple potatoes. They had fresh pineapple, rice, all sorts of salads. They also had a really good dessert menu, too. They had like pineapple upside down cake, homemade banana bread, macadamia nuts, sweet potato cakes, delicious. They also, for the kids as well, if they're a little pickier, they had like chicken tenders and french fries and, you know, macaroni and cheese. I kind of skipped this one a little bit, but anyways, after making our plates, and check out my beautiful plate that I made, we would take it back to our table, which was assigned seating. They already had our seat assigned for us, and it was pretty soon the show would start. So shortly after, it was time for the show to start, and this luau was a little unique because, as I mentioned before, this luau took place at the Courtyard Marriott's King Kamehameha's Kona Beach Hotel. And the reason it's called King Kamehameha's Kona Beach Hotel is because this was actually the location of King Kamehameha's royal court when he actually ruled over Hawaii as its first king and conqueror of Hawaii. So this luau started with the royal court progression and actually introduced King Kamehameha, who, you know, had a Dragon Ball Z move named after him. He was so famous, and his royal court. So they made a grand entrance that started off the whole luau. So after the royal court made their entrance, we met our lovely MC for the evening who walked us through the story of the luau, which is basically performances from all sorts of different Polynesian cultures like Tahiti, Samoa, New Zealand, and of course Hawaii. And I'm just gonna let the luau play out so you guys can enjoy it too.
Say aloha if you're looking for fun and pleasure, and share aloha. Reach out and lend a helping hand. Stop clapping. Come on, clap your hands. Clap your hands. Come on, beloved.
the luau, we headed back to our Airbnb. Honestly, was amazing. One of my favorite things that we did. Definitely if you're in Hawaii, go see a luau. So anyways, I decided to go for a quick late night swim, which I hadn't gotten to do yet on our trip. You know, we've been so busy all the time. So I figured this was a good time to just relax. You could hear the ocean and it was so calm. Like I said, our Airbnb was empty. I had the whole pool to myself. So that brings us to our final day in Hawaii, and today we have only one goal, which is to do the stargazing tour that got rescheduled earlier in the trip because of bad weather. But today we have beautiful weather. So these are really popular tours that you can do on the Big Island, and they basically consist of you having a guide drive you to the volcano called Mauna Kea, which is the tallest volcano in Hawaii. And basically you start at the base of the volcano after about an hour and a half or so drive to it, and they will take you up to the top where you watch the sunset and then later do some stargazing. So we ended up actually having a private tour because the other guests couldn't make the rescheduled time. So we had our own guide, as you can see, drive us through the countryside of the Big Island to the base of, here we are, Mauna Kea. And I was getting a little worried because as you can tell, it was looking pretty misty, pretty difficult to see any kind of stars, low vis. But as we got to the tour center, our guide was telling us that it's okay. Once we get above like the clouds, apparently we will have a beautiful blue sky. A little hard to believe at this point, but here we are at the visitor center, which is located at the base of the volcano. Here you can see other tour groups. They'll give you a little snack. It was really chilly here, by the way, too. I was already having to wear like a sweater and sweatpants because it got to be like low 50s. Definitely didn't feel like Hawaii at all. But you stop here at the base for about 30 or 45 minutes. You can come here on your own, but to continue up the volcano, you have to have 4-wheel drive, and they do check that. Here are the snacks that our guide gave us. You can see more of the ume flavored sweet potato chips, some Skittles. I brought those actually. So after our snack break, we continued up the mountain. As you can see, we are right in the middle of a cloud. There is no visibility, and this was a very, very rocky road. So as we were going up, our tour guide told us a bit about Mauna Kea, the volcano we're on, and actually this is the tallest mountain or volcano in the world. It's actually taller than Mount Everest. The only problem is a bunch of it's underwater, so it doesn't have the highest elevation. Still, it is actually about 500 feet taller than Mount Everest, and it does peak at around 4,207 feet. So at the top of this volcano, actually NASA and a bunch of other government organizations from around the world have set up telescopes. So they do a lot of research and stargazing at the top of this mountain, which we got to see. But as you can see, nothing. You can't see anything, and we couldn't see anything either because it was incredibly difficult until suddenly, out of nowhere, it got to the point where the white became pure blue, and suddenly we emerged from above the clouds, and it was like a whole new world. And honestly, I imagine Aladdin and Jasmine saw a view very similar to this while singing that song, because guys, check out this view. A cool fact our tour guide told us too is that NASA actually uses the peak here to train astronauts because of the high elevation and kind of alien looking terrain. And actually Hollywood producers have come here to film scenes pretending that this is Mars because of the red color and obviously rocky, barren landscape. So a very talented mountain peak, I gotta say, it is. Once we got to the summit, we got a much clearer view of all the telescopes, and these telescopes are owned and operated by all different sorts of governments throughout the world. There's of course one from UK, there's a Canada-France alliance government, there's the Subaru telescope operated by of course Japan, one that's controlled by the University of Hawaii, there's a Taiwanese telescope too, and of course NASA. This mountain is one of the best observatory spots in the world because there's not a lot of light pollution, it's arid, and it's above the cloud layer, obviously, as you can see. So you don't really have to worry about cloud coverage most days. So after learning about the telescopes, we headed even further up to an observatory point in between all the telescopes, and we were ready to watch the sunset. We were able to set up a really nice spot by the sunset and just enjoy the absolutely breathtaking view. They also did give us parkas because, as you can imagine, it's even colder up at the summit than it was down below. Definitely didn't feel like Hawaii in the summertime. Honestly, I'm glad our tour got moved because I cannot think of a better way to end our trip. Honestly, I think this is about as close to heaven as you can possibly get on earth. And it was just a great time to reflect on what an amazing trip we had. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, leave me a comment. If you've been to the Big Island, what was your favorite thing? And if you want to go, what would you want to do the most? And just thanks to my little sister, of course, for sharing this amazing trip with me, for planning most of it, and for having the amazing idea to go to the Big Island in the first place. I love you so much. And thank you guys. Bye.